Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Okay, hi, I'm Piper. I'm an alcoholic. I'm really glad I didn't trip and fall on the way up here. I've been falling a lot lately. First, I'll say thank you to Aaron for asking me to come and share here tonight. It's really an honor and a privilege. I have to breathe. I used to spend a lot of money to feel like this. It's really nice to get it naturally. Thank you to my husband. You're my hero in sobriety. You know, if I ever think there's anything bad enough to make me drink, all I need to think about is what he went through and stayed sober. Pretty powerful story. And being a witness to the power of this program through that whole experience was just amazing to me. Got some interesting people in the audience tonight. My mom's here. My Aunt Polly is also here. And my Eskimo is here. Yeah, Megan took me to my first meeting when I decided to get sober. I'll talk about that later. My mom took me to my first AA meeting when I was really little and got me involved in Alateen. That obviously didn't stop me from doing what I needed to do. Definitely went down the path. Okay, the first time I got drunk, I was 9. I was at my cousin's wedding, and my cousins and I, they were younger than I, and we were drinking the spiked punch. We didn't know that it was spiked. It had champagne in it. There were 2 punch bowls. We didn't know, but we were having a really good time. And my uncle finally came over to all of us, and he figured out what we were doing and made us stop. But up until that point, we couldn't get enough. I mean, we just kept going back and getting more, and we were dancing and having a great time. So that was the first time I got drunk, and I definitely remember it. I didn't get intoxicated until I was 13 after that. So a few years went by, and then I got stoned. I am going to talk about drugs tonight because it's a huge part of my story. If that bothers you, you can pray for me. Sorry. It's just a huge part of my story, so I'm going to talk about it. The next time that I got loaded, I smoked some pot that I had stolen from a roommate that we had in our house. She was living with my mom and myself, and I took it from her room. I didn't even know what it was, and my friend was like, "Oh, that's really killer pot," and we smoked it, and it was great and had a really good time, and that got me started on my career down the road. I think the first time that I ever did any drug, I did really good stuff. The first time I did cocaine, it was pharmaceutical quality, and I ran around the block and was just, it was fantastic, and chased that for 11 years, basically. I have, my father is a sober alcoholic as well, and he had lots of parties when we were kids, and I was always around people drinking and using, and you know, like Thad said, my dad dealt pot for a while, and you know, it was there, but I didn't do it when I was that young. I didn't start doing it until I was about 13, really partying until I was 13, and I started smoking. Used to steal cigarettes from the grocery store. You know, the stuff that we do when we're kids. I ended up living in a foster home when I was 13 because I was just out of control. I was totally out of control. I was smoking cigarettes. I was drinking a lot, and my mom had a nervous breakdown because she couldn't take care of me, and I went and lived in this foster home thinking it would be wonderful, and it was horrible. It was the worst year of my life. I need to make amends to that family, actually, and I really don't want to, because all I can think about is how awful they were to me. instead of thinking about my part, which is what you need to do when you make amends. So I'm not quite ready to do that part yet, but I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but I've never done this before, honestly. I've never told a lot of my stories, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out. I lived in that home for a year, and then I moved back in with my mom, and it was still pretty bad. I was having parties and getting caught all the time, just being a wild kid, you know. When I was 16, I became an emancipated minor. I inherited some money. It was like maybe $6,000, but I thought I had it made for life. I thought, woohoo, I'm going to move out and get my own place, and everything's going to be great. And, you know, I shared this tiny little studio apartment with my girlfriend. Our beds were like this, and the little kitchen with a hot plate, and there was a party every day in that apartment building, and that's what I did for years. You know, I thought I was having such a great time. And, you know, sometimes it was fun, but honestly, it was a lot of work, you know, to party all the time, to figure out where the money was coming from, to figure out who was going to buy this. And I wasn't even 21 yet, so, you know, figuring out where to buy it. I turned 21, I think, about 4 or 5 times in a bar in Los Angeles. I mean, in Santa Barbara, Zello. If anybody's ever been to Zello in Santa Barbara. That's where I did a lot of my drinking, and spent a lot of my career in a club called Zello on State Street. I was one of the biggest ecstasy suppliers in Santa Barbara. I could have made a lot of money, but actually all that money went to support my cocaine habit. So not a pretty picture. You know, I thought it was so glamorous and having such a good time, and it was really just so out of control. I was a nanny, actually. Sorry for all the parents out there. I was a nanny by day and a drug dealer by night. So, yeah. That's what I did. I don't know how I never got busted, because I was so, like, I was loaded all the time, and I would hand out, you know, stuff to people in the clubs, and I was drunk all the time. I never, by the way, I do talk about drugs, but I never did anything without drinking first. Alcohol was always an ingredient, whatever, because that's what took away all the breaks. You know, if I had a drink, it's like, oh, well, it's okay to go do that. That's what alcohol did for me. I'm sure you can relate. It takes away the thing in your brain that says, no, that's not okay, don't do that, you know. So I did lots of things that weren't really okay. Talked myself out of 3 DUIs. Don't know how I did it. I mean, I was clearly drunk when I got pulled over, but just, you know, I don't know how I did it. Did go to jail twice. Actually had expired registration tickets on my car, and they went to warrant because I had better things to spend my money on than registration on my car. So I got arrested. Called my mom both times. Sorry, Mom. The second time that happened, you know, the first time I was like, no, never let this happen again, Mom, I'm sorry, please help me. You know, and then it happened again, and that time I actually had a fake ID in my wallet, and so I got convicted of a felony. I think it's been pardoned. I honestly don't remember. So, you know, I have a felony conviction somewhere on my record. I don't remember if it was pardoned or not. You know, the lovely things that happen to us when we're out there. My car got booted one time, you know, and everybody saw it because I'm from Santa Barbara, so it's a really small town, and, you know, it was on one of the main streets, so everybody knew that my car was booted, and just, you know, embarrassing things like that would happen. I want to talk a little bit about Alateen and an experience that I had with that. My sponsor was this wonderful man named Cliff, and he had about 15 years of sobriety, and he just loved all of us kids. He took us on camping trips. He had this really cool dog, and we just had a great time with him. And a few years went by, and he actually ended up going out. He slipped, and he got killed. It's funny because It's like what Dad said, this disease doesn't fuck around. It kills us, one way or another. So that was my first experience with what can happen with this disease. And I was really young. I was like 14 when that happened, I think. So that's just a part of my story. I kept going to Alateen, and we would party. I mean, I partied really hard with all the kids who were at Alateen. We were all alcoholics. We'd go there and talk about our parents, and then we'd go party, We didn't think there was a problem. That's the other thing. That's the amazing thing about this disease. The power of the denial of this disease is amazing to me. It's a disease that tells you don't have it, we didn't think there was anything wrong with that. We thought we're kids. Everybody does this. Like Thad said, it's normal. It's what everybody does. The denial is. I actually took my father to his first AA meeting. He clinically died. They had to revive him. He OD'd on alcohol, Valium and alcohol. And they revived him, and he was court-ordered to go to meetings. And I took him to his first meeting up in San Ynez. I took him to the Indian reservation up there. I took him in and made sure he had a seat and a cup of coffee, and then I went out and got throwing up drunk. I mean, I'm not kidding. I couldn't see. I was so drunk and didn't make a connection at all. Didn't think maybe I have a problem too. That didn't even come in here, not for a second. Because that's what this disease does. It's so strong. When it talks about in chapter 5 that alcoholism is cunning, baffling, and powerful. I think, or it says alcohol is cunning, baffling, and powerful. I think alcoholism, I think the disease is cunning, baffling, and powerful because it tells you don't have it. And the treatment's pretty easy. You come here. You get to listen to people talk about how they live their lives, without drinking and using. I heard drinking, sorry about the drug stuff. It's just a huge part of my story. But like I said, I never did anything without drinking first. Okay, so the family that I was a nanny for towards the end of my drinking and using, I've made amends to them since. I had power of attorney on their checking account. Not a good idea to give that to an alcoholic. I would go out to the bars, Zello, and write checks at the end of the night. It's closing time. I had spent all my cash on alcohol and wanted to party. So I would write checks for hundreds of dollars, and they'd give it to me. And had to run to the mailbox when I knew the statement was coming to get it out of there so she wouldn't find it. And, just the crazy stuff that we have to do to be able to practice this disease. When I went to make amends to them, it was a really funny story. I had my husband on one side in the car, and I had my mom on the other side in the car. And I was just going to drop a letter off. I had written a note saying, I'm really sorry, I'm going to make payments, and then, really nice letter telling him I'm sober now, blah, blah, blah. And so we get to the top of the driveway, and I'm like, okay, here's the mailbox. And my mom starts driving down the driveway. And I'm like, Mom, no, it's okay, you can stop here. Oh, we'll just go and see if they're here. And we get to the bottom of the driveway. Their car is in the driveway. It was a Monday. It was the middle of the day on a Monday. And my mom said, no, you need to go up to the door. I'm terrified. Oh, God, I don't have any money, Mom. No, I can't pay them right now. Any excuse. But I did it. I walked up to the door, and they were both there, the husband and wife. Their kids were at school still. And I was able to sit down with the mom first and tell her how sorry I was. And she actually said thank you to me and told me what a great job I did taking care of her kids, which felt so good. But it was crazy. I was crazy when I was doing that. But I never drove drunk with them or anything, but I did some pretty crazy stuff. I was hungover. Anyway, but I got to say sorry to her for what I did, and then I got to say sorry to him, and then they both came together in the room, and I got to say sorry to both of them, and it was just it just happened the way it was supposed to. You know, amends are so powerful. When we're willing, I wasn't that willing. I had a little help being willing. But, you know, if we make the smallest amount of effort to make that happen, it happens, and the freedom that comes from making an amends is just, it's unbelievable. It's like your higher power is there with you, totally guiding the whole thing, and then you get to let it go. That's what's so cool about it. You don't have to hang on to it anymore. I've had lots of experiences like that with making amends. If I have the smallest amount of willingness, it happens. You know, I yelled at a woman in a meeting that I go to. She and I had a little battle, and I stopped going to the meeting, and I ran into her at another meeting that I go to. I was like, okay, God, come on, come with me. Here I go. I'm going to go say sorry. And it was totally fine. And it's just being willing. You know, that's such a big part of this whole program. I have a sponsee, and I get to witness the power of this program by watching her do the steps. Things happen for her instantly when she's willing to work these steps, you know. For me too, it's just easier to see it in someone else, you know what I mean? It's easier to see the progress in other people than in yourself. I remember hearing a guy say one time, the reason that they have speakers is so that the newcomers don't think everyone's looking at them. So if you're new and you're thinking that, it's not true, but you can still think that anyway, because I still think that. I'm a very self-obsessed person. That's a big part of my disease. If you're new tonight, I hope you get to stay. This program is so amazing, you know. I mean, the only reason that I'm sober today is by the grace of God and the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous. I truly believe that. If it still worked for me, if drugs and alcohol still worked for me, I'd still be doing it, honestly, because I did have a lot of fun. Yes, it was a lot of work at times, but I had a lot of fun too. Crazy, crazy fun. You know, Megan, she and I partied together before she took me to my first meeting, and we were just cracking up at some of the stuff that we did. You know, I mean, crazy, crazy stuff. Cars going up on two wheels and making road trips down here from Santa Barbara to score in some back alley, and you know, just crazy stuff that you do. And when you're young, you don't think anything's going to happen, you know, that you're just invincible. I did anyway. I got sober when I was 25 after having my 25th birthday party at Magic Mountain with a bunch of friends and a bunch of ecstasy and a bunch of alcohol and a bunch of pot. And then we came down here and got a hotel room and did a bunch more drugs, and then a club opened up at 6 in the morning, and then we went there. We stayed up all night. And I used to really pride myself on staying up all night. I thought that was really cool to like stay up for 3 days in a row and go out to a bar and see friends and say, hi, I haven't slept for 3 days. Don't I look great? Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah. I don't know, the things that we do. The first meeting that I went to, I remember calling Megan and saying, you know, it's time. I really need to go to a meeting with you. And she took me in, and I was so afraid to identify, and I didn't raise my hand. I didn't say I was a newcomer. And then this woman came up to me when the meeting was over, and she said, hi, are you from out of town? I've never seen you here before. And I just started sobbing. I was like, no, I'm new, and I'm really sorry I didn't identify, and I'll do it next time. But I was just a blubbering idiot. And then I went back out. I stayed sober, I think, for about 10 days. Or 2 weeks. I can't remember if I was sober for 2 weeks or went out for 2 weeks and 10 days. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was sober for a little while, and then I went back out and should be dead for the amount of drugs and alcohol that I put in my body, and I could not get loaded. Nothing would happen. I did stuff that I had never done before. I was taking all kinds of things that I had never tried before because nothing was working. And the fact that I'm standing here is pretty amazing to me. I finally, during that time, I got laid off from my job because I called once again saying I was too sick to come in, and they said, we can't do this anymore. We have to get someone to replace you. And that was really hard because I I was bouncing checks all over the place. I couldn't pay my rent, and it was a mess. It was a huge, huge mess. And I had this tiny apartment, and I had 8 people staying there. Lower companions? Yes, lower companions. But I was actually becoming a lower companion because it was getting pretty ugly. When I was finished with that, it was pretty ugly. I was by myself in this little apartment and scraping together change to go buy a wine cooler and I didn't even like wine coolers, but they didn't have vodka at the corner gas station. I'd been up for a couple of nights and wanted to get a little bit of sleep before I went to work. That was my last drunk. Actually, that's not true. Sorry, I had to change my sobriety date. I had almost 2 years of sobriety after that, thinking that was my sobriety date, October 27th. On Halloween of that same time, which was just a few days later, I went out to a party with a friend of mine, and I had a little tiny glass of champagne and a little tiny line of cocaine, and nothing happened, so I didn't think it counted. I thought I was still sober because nothing happened. So I kept that sobriety date for over 2 years. And I was thinking about it one day, and I thought, I better call someone. I better call my sponsor. I told my sponsor first, and then I told my mom, and then I told my husband. And it was really hard to do that because I had to admit that I had been, lying basically for 2 years about my sobriety. But it wasn't even a conscious lie. It was my disease told me that. It told me that nothing happened, so it didn't matter. Again, the power of the denial of this disease is just amazing to me. So I changed my sobriety date to November 1st of 93. Is that right? I'm 11. I think that's right. And the things that have happened in my life are unbelievable. I still have a lot of things that aren't how I would like them to be. I don't have as many friends as I would like to have. I have a hard time making friends. I went 2 years without a sponsor. I do not recommend that. Not a good idea. I almost went out because I didn't have a sponsor. I almost took Vicodin. I was in a lot of pain and thought, a lot of people take this, it's okay, it's, that thing that our heads do, even though I go to a meeting where lots of women in the room have problems with that drug. Anyway, and I know what would have happened if I had taken that. In my head, I would have said, well, I did that already, so I might as well do this, because that's what we do, that's what I do. So I was really close to going out. I'm so grateful that I didn't, because what Thad said is very true. I would lose everything in a second, gone like that. My 2 kids, my husband, my house, my relationship with my mom, everything would be gone. And I'm not willing to let that happen, but it almost did, because this disease messes with your head, and I wasn't working the steps. I was kind of working a program, but I wasn't working the steps. And I've got this new sponsor now, and I am really working the steps. I just finished doing the 3rd step, and I wrote a list of the things that I'm willing to turn over to my higher power. And the first list that I read, when I read it to her, she said, "Now, most of those things aren't yours to turn over." So I had to go back and read it again, and really look at the things that are mine, not my kids' feelings and the way my mom feels, or the way my husband feels, or the way my mother-in-law feels. Their feelings aren't mine to turn over. My stuff, my defensive-ness, my stubbornness. I'm a very stubborn person. I had to really look at the things that belong to me, that I'm willing to turn over. And now I'm terrified because I'm getting ready to do a 4th step, and I think I know it's going to be more it's going to delve a lot deeper than I ever have. I see heads nodding over here. Yeah, it's going to be a lot more powerful this time because, I've done it before. I've been around a while. I've done the steps a few times, but it's a whole different level now, as it should be, as it should be. If we're around here long enough, getting stagnant is not a good thing to let happen. And that's what happened to me in those 2 years without a sponsor. I was, we start thinking, I can do this on my own. I'm okay. It's, again, my disease telling me I don't have it. You're okay. You'll be fine. We went to a wedding in Santa Fe recently, and everybody was drinking, of course, doing the champagne thing and the cocktails and everything. And there was a moment when I thought, it would be really nice to just take the edge off, But again, I can't because I'm not a normal person. If I put anything in my system, like a drop of alcohol, I know that I would be running around that wedding looking for the first dealer if there were any there, or I'd be on the phone. I mean, the effect that alcohol has on me is not good. It's not good at all. It used to be. It used to be fun and used to get me drunk and I used to have fun. But now, what happened at the end of my career anyway is anytime I put even the slightest bit in, a craving to do drugs would kick in, and I couldn't stop that. And that's what brought me to my knees. I think if I had just been drinking, I would have done that for a lot longer time. Drugs brought me down pretty fast. I know there are a lot of newcomers in the room tonight, and I know that it's really hard to come here. I think standing up and saying your name and identifying is one of the bravest things you could ever do. I used to always think the chair was going to disappear from behind me and I'd be left standing in the middle of the room. It's just I still feel that way if I'm from out of town and I have to stand up. It's really scary to me to do that. So if you did that tonight, congratulations. I think I'm going to stop pretty soon. I don't know if I said anything to shock my mom tonight. She wanted me to tell some wild story that she's never heard before, but I couldn't think of any really. Maybe that I talked myself out of those 3 DUIs. That might have been a surprise. I'm just so grateful to be here, what Melanie said, that we're all here and alive, on a Saturday night. It's pretty amazing to me that that this room has this many people in it, I hope you get to stay. I really do, because I think going back out there is pretty hard. It's hard to get back sometimes. I hope I never have to go back out there, but it's a day at a time, with everything. There's nothing in my life that I can't find a solution for in the big book, too. If you don't have a big book, please get one, because it's an amazing, amazing piece of literature. I want to thank you all for being here, and thank you for my life.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.